Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Constance, and I'm here for another session of Munch and Learn with Dr. Constance. And this session is all about American Heart Month. But don't forget that Munch and Learn with Dr. Constance is short yet impactful health education sessions designed to help keep you motivated on your health and wellness journey. And as I mentioned, this session is in honor of American Heart Month and is entitled Getting to the Heart of It. And I can't go any further without stopping to share what's on my plate for today, okay? So, I most often meal prep. Me and my boyfriend actually do it together. And so this is a pretty basic meal. I have chicken tenders with some spinach and green beans. But let me tell you, the star of this show is this bang seasoning that my honey bunny got from Sam's Club. It's crazy because we have like a house divided, because he's a Sam's Club guy, I'm a Costco girl, but I pretty much say the more the merrier. I mean, right? But anyway, this might not be for everyone, because in addition to the salts that are in it, which is 70 milligrams per serving, which is about 3% of your daily recommended value. There's also sugar as well. And so I know that that's a concern for some people, but the blend of spices in this thing right here is on point. They even have a recipe on the side for you to make your own spicy mayo using this season. And basically, it's giving you all of the vibes of bang bang shrimp that you get from your favorite restaurant, from Cheesecake Factory to the sauces that you see at other locations. So I just had to share this. And another tip that I often share that is time saving for most people. And it doesn't really change the product, but if you're focusing on limiting added fats to your food products, a tip that I like to do to save time, energy, and also cutting some of the ingredients is actually taking my frozen vegetables and putting them directly into my meal prep container. So honestly, these went straight in, totally frozen. I sprinkle with my seasoning and then I let it do what it do. So when you go to warm it up, because it then thaws out, it is cooking and doing what it needs to do for your meal without losing a lot of the nutritional value that happens when we over steam it or boil it and those sorts of things. So that is the munch part of this Munch and Learn. And I hope that you have your food and are ready to sit back and enjoy this session. So, as I mentioned, this is all about American Heart Month and sort of tuning into the things that we all should be, could be, need to be doing to maintain a healthy heart. And this is a topic that's actually near and dear to my heart because it is the bread and butter of what I do every day as a physician, actually. And it is the root of what a lot of people want to discuss when it comes to health education and health coaching, and that is heart disease. And, honestly, I don't know that everyone is fully aware of what encompasses heart disease. So the most common disease that falls under the umbrella of heart disease is actually coronary artery disease. And this is that disease process that's actually causing the most impact as far as heart disease health. And, to put it in layman's terms, coronary artery disease is clogging of the arteries. I love analogies. So if you stick around long enough, you'll probably hear me make a lot of them. But the way I like to think about it is like plumbing in your house. So, sometimes we get clogged plumbing because of hair. other items that go down the drain, and you need regular maintenance of those drains to keep things moving through smoothly. Otherwise, you could end up with a disaster in your house, right? A toilet can overflow, a sink can overflow, and that could negatively impact how your house is going to function, right? Well, same exact thing with your heart can happen. So when a person has coronary artery disease, that means that there is plaque developing around the outsides of the heart, which slowly decreases the amount of space that blood has to flow through there, which creates that blocked up plumbing that I just made an analogy to, right? So in your house, the water overflows because of bad plumbing, but when it comes to your heart, it leads to a heart attack specifically. And in some people, it also increases the risk of stroke as well. So again, something big to discuss. And in fact, a person dies every 34 seconds in our country related to heart disease. So again, this is something very important to talk about, because while you have things like coronary artery disease that are directly causing issues with the heart, there's also conversations about things that can negatively impact the heart, but not directly related to the heart. And so that precursor to coronary artery disease is actually high cholesterol, right? So that cholesterol that we take in our body is what gets sticky and starts to cause issues inside of the arteries. And then conditions like high blood pressure, which is increasing the stress on the heart, in addition to diabetes, which is attacking the vessels of the body. And many of us know also nerves, but that's a conversation for a different session. But it's just heartbreaking, no pun intended, but I mean, whatever, you could take it that way if you want. But the heartbreaking part about heart disease in particular is that the most common causes of heart disease are actually preventable. So I think if we all took a close look at some of the habits that we have, we can not only change our health, excuse me, but honestly, the health of generations. And I'll get into that more, because I entitled this session Getting to the Heart of It, because one, I understand that education is a very important part of how we all take care of ourselves. I think on the surface of it, not all people can identify with that fact. But I know when I have a question about something in my community, for example, like, where can I go to get cookies at 12 a.m.? What do? I go to Google. That's me educating myself on something that it is that I need or want in the moment, right? And so when it comes to our health, we have to do the same thing, but it's a little bit more sticky because it's straightforward, where you might be able to get cookies at 12 a.m. at night. No judgment, everybody loves cookies every now and again, and you should enjoy it if you want to, but it's a little bit different when we're talking about getting reliable information about how it is that we manage our health, right? I'm about to get on a soapbox, y'all. I'm sorry. This is only the fourth episode or third episode if you don't include the trailer, but the overutilization, or perhaps I could say the poor utilization of search engines can actually negatively impact our health, because if you're weighing heavily on what it is that you're learning from the internet versus taking that information and having collaborative conversations with your healthcare providers, it can definitely change the outcome of different appointments you have. And actually, I'm going to write that down because I think that that would be a really good session for us to have, talking about learning more about your health. Um, so yeah, stay tuned for that. But you know, the truth of the matter is, again, like I said, education is very important to taking care of ourselves, because if we have enthusiasm about how much research, and understanding that we gain when it comes to preparing for vacation or figuring out the best school for ourselves or our children, the best price for different products, then why don't we have that same energy when it comes to taking care of ourselves and honoring our bodies? Um, and so that is exactly why I'm doing Munch and Learn and why I started Beyond Clinic Walls Wellness, because I understand how challenging that can be. But specifically, when we're having conversations, getting back to the heart disease conversation, it's important to educate yourself because, if you're not actively engaged in the healthcare process and knowing your status, then you could unfortunately be setting yourself up for some complications. Because I know we often use the statement, know your status, when it comes to sexually transmitted infections, but it's bigger than that, right? Going to the doctor regularly is more than your reproductive health or your sexual health, because many of the causes of heart disease we cannot feel. Okay, hypertension um is one of the bigger contributors to heart disease, because the average person will not have any symptoms when their blood pressure is elevated. So if there is not a periodic check of the blood pressure, then you would just have absolutely no clue that it was elevated and negatively impacting your health. So that is an important part of it. But then the second part of that is also paying attention to your body and listening, y'all. Because sometimes we are so-called paying attention, but we're not even tuned in. It's probably a little bit like, how if you're in a relationship, sometimes you just don't pay them no mind. They just talking, or whatever the case may be. But sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes a person really is trying to vent and have a serious conversation, but a lackadaisical approach can create a wedge in that relationship, right? Oh my gosh, there's that analogy. I did want to even realize it, but that's the same thing with our bodies, y'all. So if our body is saying something to us, even if we don't know exactly what it is and we don't take the time to seek out understanding as to what's happening, we are doing ourselves a disservice every time. So even though the average person might not have specific symptoms when their blood pressure is elevated, some people experience headaches. But don't hear me say every time you have a headache, it means your blood pressure is elevated, because sometimes a headache is just a headache, but that is a potential symptom of elevated blood pressure, y'all. Also, sometimes people have chest tightness or chest pain related to elevated blood pressures. And then sometimes people also experience tingling or numbness to extremities. All of this is because of that stress that is put on the heart that changes how efficient the heart is at taking care of the rest of the body. Because, of course, the heart is the life force. It's pumping blood through our body so that every piece of us is getting oxygen. That's its main purpose. So if there's an issue there, and then you can start to have dysfunction other places. But therein lies how hypertension is so problematic, because today we're talking about heart health in particular, but hypertension can also affect your kidneys. That added pressure, again, stresses out the kidneys and causes issues. But you, similarly to heart disease, you won't feel that, unfortunately, until it's too late, and it could mean irreversible damage to those organs, the heart and the kidneys and the brain even. um and so, now that we've sort of laid the foundation for the conversation, and understanding that some of the more common causes of heart disease is preventable, I also want to put a plug in that not everything in the umbrella of heart disease is something that's the fault of an individual. I think there is a lot of pressure to maintain a healthy lifestyle, and we can get into a place of hope and despair when it comes to taking care of our bodies, because we may feel as though we're not doing something right, or we set ourselves up for failure. Um, and that's not always the case. So, while there are things that can negatively impact your heart health, there are some other things with heart disease that you can't necessarily account for. One example of that is, of course, if a person has a congenital heart defect, that is not an issue with that person individually. And it might not impact the heart as much when you're younger, but as you get older, it can start to cause more problems. Um, Also, issues with the valves of the heart can be congenital as well, but also just develop over time. Um, Another thing I like to remind us is the one thing is certain as life is the fact that we won't be here forever. And once your heart gets so many beats, things do get stressed out. That's just a fact of life. We won't be here always. And so our organs do get a little bit tired. And that's why we do see a lot more conditions as we get older. And so those are things that we need to understand, appreciate, and accept. But also remembering that we should not do things that are going to negatively contribute to some of the natural wear and tear that our body might have in general. Um, and so I kind of want to move forward into some conversations about motivation, because I mentioned how sometimes it seems as though we can get into a place of hopelessness and despair when it comes to managing your health or our health, because I am not exempt from those feelings. But I want to say to myself, as I say to all of you today, do not lose hope, okay? As challenging as it might feel and appear, to do what we would consider to be the right things, there is always hope to make small adjustments every day that are going to positively impact any and everything that you might want to accomplish in this world, whether that's your career ideas or even your health goals, right? And the focus that I would like to have on this, and that's another reason why I entitled this session Getting to the Heart of It, because as a physician, I've noticed how much people fall into the idea of things being genetic. Okay. So, is it true that some medical conditions that we have come by way of uh, our makeup, who we are, the egg and the sperm that came together, met one day, and made our beautiful self? Yes, most definitely. There are patterns and families that are related to our genetic makeup. But I've have been having more conversations lately about the idea that just as inherent as genetics are in our lives, so are cultural norms. And so, for example, we think about the fact that certain health conditions impact people of color, more than the rest of the population, particularly here in our country. That's looking at African American or Black people. That's looking at Hispanic individuals as well as Native Americans. Um, and unfortunately, when you look at it, it's not necessarily that our genetic makeup is different from other people, but it's that the experiences that we have had as a culture have shaped who we have become, even now, generations away, in the modern world. And we have to make some changes to turn things around and see some positive impact on our health. So, what examples of that might I mean? I think the easiest one to understand and think about is our eating habits and activity level. So I am going to be the first to say that I will never tell anybody not to eat any particular foods, because not only do I believe, I know that there is a space for all of the things that God created on this earth, as well as all of the things that He put on the heart and brain of humans to create. So that is all of the animals that we have access to, all of the fruit, vegetables, legumes that we have access to, all through the beautiful, yummy things like God bless the person who made ice cream, and God doubly bless the person who decided to make non-dairy options because your girl has lactose intolerance, and that's the issue not only for me, but the people around me. And that also includes the discovery of the potato chip and the French fry, and the Oreo cookie were used to be one of my favorites as a kid. And, I'm saying that jokingly, but seriously, please do not let anyone downplay and try to make you feel bad about your cultural foods. However, how we approach, how we prepare those foods, how often we eat those foods can certainly make a difference in our health and how we manage our health. Um, and in addition to that, it also makes a difference as far as the habits and behaviors that we take on. So something that I've actually been including when I do a family history and talk to individuals about their particular risk factors, is, for example, if someone tells me that they had a family member that had hypertension or heart disease in general, I might say, oh, how would you have considered that person's health? Were they someone who took good care of themselves? You're not sure, or they didn't really take good care of themselves. And there are times where they say, you know what? My grandpa never really went to the doctor. And then one day he just passed away and we found out that he had a heart attack, right? So in that case, Grandpa did not necessarily know what his status was. He wasn't closely paying attention to the things that he could be doing to positively impact his health. And later in his life, that led to a heart attack. That does not mean that his children or grandchildren have to experience the same fate. In fact, it should be a reminder to perhaps do things a little bit different than Grandpa did, right? So don't let the idea of genetics hold you back from being your best self. Take a look at your family history and take the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between, and make your family and yourself proud. That not only includes the food habits that we have, but it also includes other behaviors like smoking and activity level. Because if I had to be honest, in my life, a lot of my cousins were active, but not necessarily my parents, in particular, my mother. No shade, mom. Just being honest. There were things that they did to stay active. Like my mom loved to go skating when I was a kid, but that wasn't my ministry. I wasn't so good at that. And so over time, I had to find for myself what I would do to stay active. And my dad, I I identify him as my father, but he is my stepdad. And, he was into tennis. And so that's something that I got into at a young age that started to teach me the importance of physical activity. Not just for health, but because it felt good. If I did a match and I got a shot that I wouldn't ordinarily get, it showed that I was progressing. Or if I won a game, it made me feel proud, right? So even though the essence of me being physically active was a part of my health, I also gained all of the yummy, good feelings that come with moving your body. Okay. Um, and so that also includes smoking. Uh, some people were not discouraged from smoking because of the behaviors of their family. The truth of the matter is, their family may not have understood the total health impacts of that, but smoking is also a big risk factor because of the toxins negatively impacting all sorts of parts of your body. And so, if we don't change that behavior, that's another thing, and it's going to negatively impact your health. And so I already talked about exercise in the context of um, family habits or the cultural behaviors that we might develop. And in this case, culture doesn't just mean your race, your ethnicity, but culture can be your neighborhood. And I also consider families to have different cultures as well. But taking that idea and running with it, you should not lose hope also, because you can make a change. And so finding exercise that speaks to you, like I learned tennis speaks to me, is important. Finding other ways, like checking out a new seasoning on the shelf and how you might be able to use that, are also going to positively impact your health. So, to actually, because these are short yet impactful health education sessions, I kind of want to sum it up with um think of taking care of your heart and all other parts of your body as the top of the totem pole and the umbrella for everything that your self-care regimens should be. Because getting your hair done, your nails done, going to the barber to get your beard figured out for the fellas, or going shopping. Um, None of those things mean as much if you don't get the opportunity to enjoy them because you're in a hospital for some sort of health condition that you could have prevented. So, as you continue to explore your life and what that looks like for you and how you want to live it, during that time, also explore and exhaust every effort that you can make to be as healthy as possible. And I know that that's not easy. Um, Even if it doesn't always seem like it, even your favorite doctors have probably had some sort of challenge in regards to how they approach their health at some point in their life. So we all have a struggle with how can we show up for ourselves in the most positive way. But I encourage you to really investigate those things that you can do to positively impact your health, be the best person that you can be, and then have that trickle down into other parts of your family and for generations to come. Show that you can turn things around and be healthy. And with that reminder, get to the heart of it. Don't just scratch the surface of being healthy. Truly look into, discover, and explore all that is necessary to be your healthiest self. Thanks for munching and learning with me. I'll see you next time.